It's 1 a.m. The world's asleep, not just in their beds, but in their lives. Stuck, waiting, unaware of what's possible. But some of us, we're awake, chasing something bigger, stepping beyond comfort, making bold moves, becoming who we were meant to be. This is the 1 a.m. Club, where every week we take one audacious step forward. No excuses, no more waiting, just bold action that transforms our lives. I'm Stanton, and I'm inviting you to step off the ledge of fear and into a life of purpose. Because one audacious move can change everything. Let's get into this week's episode. Well, welcome back to the 1 a.m. Club. If we haven't met before, my name's Stanton Giles, and kind of like to start off every week by marking off this life and weeks board. This is always a really good visceral reminder of the life that I have lived and the life that I have yet to live. I like starting the episodes with that. But moreover, I also like starting the episodes with one simple question for you guys. If you're starting your week, if you're ending your week, whether you're thinking about what you did with your week or what you're going to do with it, one question for you. What's one step you can take today, this week, to become more of the person that you want to be in this world? Think on that for 1 second. What's the first thing that comes to mind? What's something that you feel like you might not actually be giving your best to when you know that you could? My encouragement to you this week is to think about the life that you're living and how you can make it better. That's all I want you to do each week, is to just analyze your life and think about where you're going and where you are currently. Where you are is pretty indicative of where you're going. And so if you don't like where you are, if you want your future to look a little bit different in certain areas of your life, then you have to enact change. And that's most simply done by pushing ourselves over the edge of fear and enacting change in our life. So what's one audacious thing that you can do this week? Guys, I am really excited for this week's episode. This is a longer one, about 3 to 4 times longer than the past 3 episodes that I've done. But we have our first guest on the podcast. And a lot of you guys that might already know who I am and know my life will know who this person is. His name's Bate. He's one of my best friends. We honestly do life together on the daily, although we live in very separate parts of the country. Boomer lives right off the coast of Oregon in a tiny beach town named Manzanita, Oregon. And he hasn't always lived there. He took a bold risk, moved out of the comfort of the city that he was living in for his whole life, Denver, Colorado, moved out to the coast because it felt right to him. Over the course of our 4 years of friendship, which actually isn't that long, I've had the honor of watching Boomer go through life tenaciously, audaciously, and turning over every stone to try to figure out what he should be doing in this life and how to do it the best way possible. But the subject matter of this podcast is all about the pressure that we choose to have in our life. What pressure are you choosing to add to your life to make your life better? Let's go ahead and dive in. Boomer, thanks for taking time to hop on and talk today. I know it's not an irregular occurrence for you and I to hop on Zoom and talk regardless, but dude, thanks so much for taking the time to hop on and talk to us about the subject at hand, which we're not going to necessarily name right now. We're just going to jump straight into the subject, which underlies in something I was talking to you about the other day, I think via Zoom or FaceTime. And I came to you and I was like, dude, I was sitting there with my wife last night and I realized how stressed I was. And I started thinking about, I was like, well, what's stressing me out in life right now? Like, what's kind of weighing me down at 10 p.m. on a Sunday? And I was like, well, it's getting this documentary done. And that's something that was self-imposed. It's the fact that I have piano lessons in the morning at 9 a.m., self-imposed. But the piano lessons wouldn't stress me out unless I was trying to post a podcast episode, which I promised everybody I'd get done on Monday morning, which again is self-imposed. So all the stress in my life was self-imposed. And you immediately came back and you said, dude, it's such a skill.
Yeah, it really is.
Tell me about that. Tell me about what you meant by that.
I mean, I think just like having the ability to choose a challenge in your life is going in direct opposition to comfort, which we've had a lot of discussions about comfort being the driving force behind, it feels like, the entire world. It's very countercultural to put pressure on yourself. And, you know, you're driven, I'm driven by something that is way bigger than just success or comfort. It's it's about impact and leaving a legacy and living fully. And most people need a boss or a parent or a spouse or someone to be telling them what to do, or to write out a to-do list for them. Or, a lot of people wake up with other people's goals and to-dos on their mind, and it takes a certain individual that can put those to-dos on and see the bigger picture of what's at play and actually hold themselves to that too. That's a whole nother skill to do. So to me, yeah, it is self-imposed, and it is they're pressure, but to me, that was absolutely a skill that you were doing.
Yeah. And that was kind of eye-opening to me in the moment. If you remember my kind of response to it, I was like, that's a cool way of looking at it, because sometimes the second that we feel stressed or we have something that we need to do, there's a negative emotion associated with that. But it's good to be reminded that this is coming from a good place, that like the root causation of this is actually driving me to become a better person. That was something that there was a word that you just used a minute ago, and that was comfort. There's a book that I need to read, but I haven't quite read yet. It's called The Comfort Crisis by Michael Easter. He's been on Joe Rogan. He's been on a few other podcasts. I'm forgetting the other ones he's been on, but he talks about that he truly believes that there is a crisis of comfort in modern day age, that for most people, we are everything is designed to make our lives more comfortable. And comfort in and of itself isn't necessarily a bad thing. Like, there is something in our physiology that drives us as humans to want to seek comfort. And it's also not bad to be comfortable. Like, I want to sleep on a comfortable bed and I want to eat good food and things like that. But somewhere along the way in modern society, Michael Easter argues, we've lost our way with self-imposing difficult things on ourselves. And honestly, maybe the word self-imposed is more of a modern day usage of it, because back in the day, people didn't used to have to impose anything. It was just the nature by which they lived. They had to, we have to work out now. Exercise wasn't a thing, 1,000 years ago or a millennia ago, however long it was ago, whenever cavemen existed. That was just a natural byproduct of the way that they went about their life. And he also argues in that book, because I did some research on it, that people back then were actually, even though they had much less comfort than us, were actually far more happy than us, because I think that people equate comfort with happiness, which just simply isn't the case.
Right. Yeah, there is so much fear if we do get out of our comfort zone. But I think just right on the other side, I'm talking like right when you take that step, that is when freedom happens, right? Only those who risk are free. And so it is kind of it is a beautiful thing, that we put so much pressure on our lives because we're called to something bigger than just ourselves, Yeah. Well, I guess take me back, Boomer, in your life with your story of, I've known you for 4 or 5 years, something like that now. Yeah, really not that long, eh?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting to say. So like, take me back through, is this something that has always been with you? Do you feel like self-imposed pressure to seek discomfort, to plagiarize yes theory, to go against the grain and not just accept what's in front of you, but be proactive in the pursuit of alignment and fulfillment and impact in this world? Is that something that you have noticed always in you?
I think so. I love this question because I think it has always been in me, definitely amplified by my parents. I can remember like school projects. When I say yes to something, and that's the kind of the big caveat, is things really, really had to pique my interest, and then I was going to outperform and outwork everyone, because I said yes to that. So let my yeses be yeses, my noes be noes. There's a lot of things that I'm not interested in, but when I do say yes, I will go after it with all my heart. And you saw, I think I remember like school projects, teachers just being like, what? Okay, you clearly put so much time and effort compared to these classmates, or, talent shows. I mean, it really wasn't that I was that talented. I would just work harder than everyone. And I think my parents kind of like picked up on that and started to speak that over me. There's been multiple phrases that my parents have spoken over me over when I was a kid. And one of those is, Boomer, when you say yes to something, you go after something with all your heart, right? Like they saw that clue, right? Maybe it was just kind of not as big of a gift, but they saw that, they spoke over it, they amplified it. And then I just started to believe that, oh, this is just what I do. This is who I am. So yeah, I do think it has always been in me. I would love to ask you, do you feel like you've always had that?
Yeah. I was thinking about that as you were talking. I have a tendency to sort of discredit or forget past versions of myself. And so, like at my bachelor party, there was people speaking about an adventurous side of me or something back whenever I had roommates living in Tennessee, and I had this revelation of like, oh, like, I, for some reason I've just equated this to more of a present version of myself. And so I will admit that sometimes I am bad at remembering that stuff, but I would lean towards saying, no, I haven't always been
interesting.
Like that. And I think, and I guess the secondary question that would automatically flow from that as well, when and how did that develop? And I think it came from this acute awareness that life is finite.
Yeah.
And we know it. We think about it every day. We drive past the cemetery. You listen to the podcast, you have reminders like just throughout your life. And it's pretty common in modern day as well, which is an interesting paradox of what I just said, to not think about death too. So you think about it, but you're like, let's not think about that. I'm alive, so let's just be here in the present, which is good to a certain extent.
So, dude, your relationship with time has always intrigued me so much. You have more than a lot of people. Like the reason we put pressure in our lives is because of tons of different reasons, but it feels like your relationship with time is underlined,
It is, yeah. And obviously there's probably some toxicity to that, but I believe there's also a silver lining to it, or maybe not just a silver lining, but there is a lot of beauty, I believe, to the outlook that life is finite.
Yeah.
And I got one shot at this.
Yeah.
So obviously that's a big inspiration behind the 1 a.m. club, but moreover, I really think that began to shape my outlook on what to do with my time. And so we've both mentioned it already, and I mentioned in a couple of the other podcasts, the idea of reactivity to life versus proactivity in life. And so let's just say, for example, let's just take the marathon that I'm running, for example, because that's what I was talking about. Like it's cool that I chose to do a marathon.
Yeah.
But I am not just doing it, I'm being proactive in choosing to run it hard and choosing to push myself, because the idea of growth and the idea of being a better and more powerful version of myself, even if it is just in my legs, but probably also in my mind through that training, it gets me really excited. And so even, the idea of proactivity and reactivity in regards to road rage, or, somebody cuts you off, typically people are reactive and they explode with their thoughts, with their emotions of what they're feeling. But you can be proactive in how you respond to that. If you wake up with a headache because you drank the night before, or you just didn't sleep good enough, you have the option to react to that, or you can feel it, accept it, and then choose, and to use words that you've used before, choose to be the architect of your life and say, regardless of how I feel, I'm going to create a life that I'm proud of. I'm going to do something, even though my mood maybe isn't aligning with how I feel.
It's such a skill. It's such a skill that I feel like we're both learning how to do is how to be proactive and how to observe and how to be an architect for our own lives, life. And then that's where, kind of we're talking about like challenges, like your marathon. Life without challenge is stagnation. It's why I resonate so deeply with my phrase for the year, rebel soul, like pushing boundaries, risking failure, and diving into the unknown just gives me energy, and I'm drawn to that edge, like you, like literally like drawn to an edge because that's where life feels most real. And when I talk about, like living fully or multiplying, like it's not just about doing more. It's about doing the things that matter, even when they're really hard.
Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're good.
I think that's a really clear distinction to make too, because doing just for doing's sake
totally
is feeding, to use the word again, a toxic version of yourself that needs to find affirmation in the doing. But when you're seeking impact and fulfillment, that's also, and this is something that, I sent over to you in those questions too beforehand, is it's something that will help you not be burnt out in the process.
Yeah.
And so, just because I felt stressed the other night with all these different things, that didn't mean I was burned out. Stress isn't actually always a bad thing. And I can't go to all the studies and whatnot, but there's actually, if you whoever's listening to this, you want to Google it. There's varying opinions on both sides of the coin about, stress being a good thing and stress being a bad thing. But I think the bigger picture of what is going on is that I'm pushing myself into an uncomfortable place in order to chase impact, chase fulfillment, to do something with my life rather than just go through the motions.
Yeah.
So I guess a question for you would be, and just to let people in, obviously I know you really well. You've used words like rebel soul. You've talked about multiply. I know where you live. I know like some bold moves that you've made, some very audacious things that you've done over the last several years. You, not to steal your thunder, but you've started as a wedding videographer selling products, selling a sound effects pack. And a lot of people do that. A lot of people have the side hustle of selling the sound pack or the product or, the color grading preset or whatever it might be. And then that's kind of nice. You got the extra $1,000 a month or $500 a month. It's nice. But you didn't just accept that as being what the story is because that's what, everybody else is doing. You saw something in that, something that would have led to impact for you and for others, fulfillment within you, and something that you knew that you could be the architect of. And so, again, I don't mean to steal your thunder, but kind of walk us through, not to pigeonhole you, but your life and that process, maybe with Multiply Sound, but also other things in your life, because you told us that this has been a big part of who you are. What are some ways throughout your life that have kind of butterfly effect into who you are now?
Totally, dude. That means a lot, man.
I was like 8 questions.
That means a lot. It really does. So thank you. I do a lot of things, and because I'm an extremely passionate person, I love what I do. and I just want to create the most beautiful things in this world. You know, I think it's weird to say, but I feel it really feels like my responsibility in this world to create beautiful things. Yeah, you know, the word multiply, spoken over my life about 12 years ago. A mentor of mine just looked at me on a random day and said, "You know what you are, Boomer? You're a multiplier." And I think that's like the power of words, right? Because I've kept repeating that word over my life all the time, and so I think the message, you know, that I'll probably be shouting from the rooftops is multiply what you've been given. Why? Because we need you. And, you know, I'm actually being serious when I say that. So that has manifested in a lot of different ways throughout my life, and through the music that I create, and through the clothing, and through the sound effects, and where I want to live. There's a lot of avenues of what I do, and you know, multiply sound is probably what you're talking about, is probably the most relevant thing right now that I'm working on the daily, and it's just it was created kind of out of just, I don't think anyone's gonna understand this except for me, and it came from a place of like, whatever, like I'll just make this and see what happens. You heard those conversations. I was with you when I was saying nobody's gonna get this, nobody's gonna buy this, videographers won't understand, but whatever, I'm gonna still do it to the best of my ability. And so that was the world, you know, the voice of what is that voice? I don't know, maybe the voice of reason, and then there's the voice of pure creation that's like, whatever, I'm gonna still, you know, make this the best that I can. And I mean, it's it's been incredible journey. Like it has gone to numbers and all across the world, and grown so much than I could have ever imagined. And I think that is the testament of, you don't want to be the best at what you do. You want to be the only one who does what you do. And in that moment in Multiply Sound, when there was the logical voice telling me no one is going to understand this, and then there was the voice of like, no, but this is what makes you you, and this might be cool to bring to this world. I wasn't trying to make the best sound effects pack. I wasn't trying to be the best videographer. I wasn't trying what the world or what logically was being told to me. I was saying, what is the thing that only Boomer can create? And I created that. And I just pray that I can keep listening to that voice for the freaking rest of my life, because that is where the most growth and happiness and fulfillment and joy and testimony and legacy was built, was from me being diligent and disciplined enough to listen to that voice.
Yeah, man. You have been diligent, probably more than anyone that I personally know. I think something that is big when I think about people that listen to this podcast, listen to your story, listen to my story, it kind of comes down to a core principle of the 1 a.m. Club, is the I am statement.
Wow, yeah.
The realization that you have the power to do all of these things. And I bring that up because, you know, when I watched 14 Peaks, the documentary with Nims or however you say his name, the Nepalese guy going to all 14 8,000 meter peaks within 6 months, I look at him and I get motivated in my own regard. But at the same time, I'm like, well, there is no way I could ever compete with a Nepalese dude that does this, that literally was born over 14,000 feet, you know, that, which is the highest mountain here in Colorado, and has this lung makeup to go and do this kind of thing. It makes sense that he can do it and I can't. And so I you know, when people listen to this, I also don't want them to look at you or I and think, oh, well, I wasn't born. Well, I guess you, because I'm saying I wasn't born with it. I wasn't born, or I don't remember. I wasn't like Boomer where I can't really remember a time where I wasn't like this. Not to say your road's been perfect and that you always live in this state of alignment. That would be awesome. I think that you continually pursue that. But for the person that maybe feels a little estranged right now to where they can't relate to us and they're like, well, I don't know how to not listen to the voice of reason, which is sometimes maybe the word you were looking for too is resistance.
Yeah, sure.
In life. Yeah. Resistance. And well, I guess not to say that's perhaps the word you're looking for, but another word that I was thinking of for that, the logical side, the side that screams the loudest inside of us. And as I mentioned last week on the podcast, there's just this underlying voice. I guess I'm answering it a little bit before I let you answer, but there's just this voice underlying that's whispering sometimes that just comes out for a second. And I feel like over time I have learned to notice that voice more and more and listen to it to make me be proactive in life, which ends up making me seek discomfort in my life. And so what would you say to the person that wants to be more like that? Like that wants to be, that realizes that there is beauty in it, that can understand the logic of what we're saying and is understanding the path of where we're going at this on this episode of the 1 a.m. Club, but maybe they don't know how to do that in their life.
Yeah, man, that's a really good question. I think the first thing that I would say is maybe someone can be listening to this and they're like, oh, Boomer and Cody just like have this unparalleled motivation. Literally yesterday, I rented out this Airbnb, was doing a bunch of content for Multiply Sound, spent a lot of money to do this and time and energy on the clock with Sarah filming. And I start getting really, really anxious. And I have to stop. I can barely say anything. I start getting emotional. And then Sarah literally asked me, like, what's going on? Like, what are you feeling right now? And I said one word. I said pressure. I'm feeling pressure. That's all. And then I started to cry even more. And dude, and before this, I'm talking to 2 lawyers, and that's a whole nother story, but talking with lawyers, talk about taking the wind out of your sails and just killing the creative vibe. And tomorrow I'm doing taxes for 2 days straight. So and I'm going to be honest with you, dude. I was pretty close after my anxious breakdown of rescheduling the podcast. I was about to call you. I'm not in a good mindset right now. I need to show up having it all together. Dude, it's, me, I don't get too high. I really don't get too low, but yesterday it was definitely a low, and talking to lawyers this morning really didn't add, to that motivation to come and talk about this sort of stuff. But dude, the second we start talking about this stuff, the second you just take one tiny step, hit join Zoom, and now we're talking, dude, I feel so much better. It's really just tiny little steps, recognizing I am so anxious right now. I don't think I can talk. I don't even think I can talk to my best friend on a podcast that he started, it's all these thoughts. And then amidst that, growing that muscle to just take one step after another. Okay, I'm going to set my mic up. I'm going to set my camera up. I'm going to press, accept for Zoom. It's these tiny, tiny little steps. And then boom, we're just talking. It's oh my gosh, this is awesome. I'm so glad I did this. Even though 24 hours ago, I was I really don't want to do this.
Yeah, man. Mood follows action. You sat down and did it. And the second you joined Zoom, here you were.
Exactly.
Which, by the way, thank you.
Yeah.
We'll have to catch up on all that at some point.
Yeah.
But yeah, just going back to what I was saying before you answered, it kind of all ties in. It's it's crazy how loud our feelings and our emotions and the way that our day goes and the outside world dictates our life. If people can learn, if I can learn, if you can learn more and more throughout life to separate ourselves from whatever random thought happens to pop in our head, whatever that emotion is that we're feeling, whatever that feeling is that is causing the emotion, the more that we can disconnect from that loud screaming voice that is just constantly cycling through our head. You think about it, you're always thinking, you're always feeling, you'll think a random thought about some, argument you had with a friend years ago, and all of a sudden you're all flustered, or you get a DM from somebody, or you get a text from a family member, and all of a sudden, bam, that's how quick the trajectory of your day can change sometimes. And then so our mood is so dictated by so much outside. Our mood is reactive most of the time. And so the proactive part is also listening to that tiny little voice. Like yesterday, I think I told you like over a year ago, I fight this 3 p.m. slump thing.
Yep.
But I was really feeling it yesterday. And I was really feeling it in regards to, I had just eaten lunch and I was really, really tired. It was probably
Chick-fil-A
a lot of cheese or something. It was, what was it? Oh, it was leftover. This doesn't really go well with my my marathon training. It was leftover pizza, but it was like artichoke chicken with arugula on it. So, not the most unhealthy kind.
Yep. But
it was leftover, and I ate a lot of it because I was going to go on this run and go to work out, and I needed the calories. And now I'm just disclaiming, but I'm trying to make up a reason for it. But I felt this voice say, just go. Well, I didn't feel it. It was the voice in my head saying, just go like lay down for a little bit and like, scroll on your phone, look on Facebook Marketplace. You can get back to working on the documentary and whatever else you're working on later. And it was just this tiny little voice that said, just walk downstairs. Just don't do it. Just walk downstairs and go sit in the chair.
Dang.
And I went and sat in the chair and I worked the rest of the afternoon. And I know for a fact, because I've done it a plethora of times, if I would have gone and laid on that couch, I would have felt comfort in that moment, but also in the back of my head. And I think everybody's aware of this feeling when you're doom scrolling, whenever you're doing nothing, it actually kind of hurts a little bit. There is this unease. There's this feeling of discontent. And so that kind of, I think, leads me, or there's this pressure almost to change something, but you're so deep into doom scrolling that maybe you don't. And so like, why do you, it's so, I'm sorry, I'm trying to set this question up, like, because there's this feeling that what we're doing isn't right underneath it, like a tiny voice saying like, oh, get off the couch, go do something, but we don't do anything about it. We stay in the comfort. So comfort doesn't necessarily mean happiness. Yeah. Comfort means ease, and ease doesn't necessarily mean fulfillment. And a lot of times that discomfort equals pressure. And so would you say that in life, do you feel like most people are avoiding pressure or avoiding discomfort? Like, what's your take on all of that? I've spoken on it. What's your take on that?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's such a good question.
That's the second such a good question I've gotten.
Yeah, dude. These are really good questions. You came prepared. Yeah, I think it is obvious. Like, people are avoiding discomfort. Okay, I'm going to go a little bit different take on this. I think I'm just going to speak from my experience, I guess. Yeah. From this question is, I think I might be a little different when it comes to this. And I definitely can speak. I definitely can try to speak for the masses, but knowing me, let's say I'm in that situation and I'm on that couch and I hear that voice, okay, just go downstairs. Almost 9 times out of 10, I will listen to that voice and go downstairs, but then I'll just sit in front of my computer and just be restless. I know, it's almost like I know I need to rest. Like I struggle with just resting and just chilling. And I mistake that voice saying go downstairs for like, shame, you're not doing enough, get down there. And really what I struggle, so let's say there's a spectrum, right, of people who are just couch potatoes and just will sit and scroll, and probably you and me are on the other side of the spectrum of like, we do too much. Like we just need to rest and chill for a second. Right. So I will listen to that voice, but that voice is tough for me because sometimes I torture myself trying to sit in front of this computer or work or try to do something when I really just need to like get a good night's sleep or just rest a little bit. Does that kind of make sense? I know I went a different direction with what you were asking, but I guess that's more the truth of kind of where I lie, and what Boomer actually needs to learn is more okay, just chill for a second, you know?
Yeah.
And I would much rather be on this side of the spectrum. You know, like we know a ton of people, and I do not envy the people that need to listen to that voice saying, go downstairs and work, even though you don't feel like doing it. I feel, maybe I don't want to speak for you, but I feel like we both are like, we are going to go down there and we're going to do it. You know, we're going to do the work. We're going to be in discomfort. But then there's a line where it's like, whoa, I need to rest.
Yeah. It's the constant, it depends situation of life where we seek balance amidst, you know, listening. Honestly, this whole conversation kind of boils down to what voice are you listening to?
Sure.
In your head, and what feeling are you following? What emotion are you letting direct your day? And it even, I believe, could be condensed further to self-awareness and awareness of what's going on. Looking at your mind and your emotions from like this 50,000 foot view, being the observer of yourself and not just being in every single second and reacting to like the pain of, you know, I'm tired from eating this food, or reacting to how this reel made me feel, or this text, or my energy level, but taking a 50,000 foot view of that and being like, hey, should I maybe be resting right now? Am I just making myself feel bad for resting because I love to work so much because I'm a workaholic, you know? And so, you know, and I think I'm not going to say 50,000 foot view again.
Dude,
I just did.
Just say it. Just say it. Just say it.
I know I'm going to say to zoom out, to zoom out even further. You know, we are talking a lot about work. We're talking about, you know, a lot of the things that we do, or that we're talking about is, you know, I'm starting a podcast. I'm doing a podcast. We're working on the alignment experience. We're working on a sound effects company.
Sure.
You know, I'm training for, and then actually gets into the other thing, which I want to open the conversation to and bring listeners into, is there's so many areas outside of work that, and honestly, work isn't even the correct verbiage for us, because it's not like a 9 to 5. This is something that we're trying to infuse what we do and make money from. So, we're trying to make money from the thing that we enjoy doing so that we can enjoy doing our life and actually be able to live. You know what I mean?
100%.
It would be amazing to be able to accomplish that. And it's a very rare thing to be able to do that. So it's not technically work, but there's so many other avenues in life that we could talk about and relate with people on, where people are comfortable, and taking a moment to think about how you can push yourself out of that comfort to do better in something. And I think it kind of boils down to two different things: physical challenges and new experiences. And I'm going to be honest, I did some research to look at that. So that's not just like a conjuring in my mind, but when you think about the two things in life that you can do that are going to, you know, all these words kind of overlap: happiness, fulfillment, joy, satisfaction, all these different things. They all mean separate things, but something that's going to make you awake, alive, in the moment, proactive, pushing forward, growing, is pushing yourself physically. How many people feel like crap after they go to the gym. No, I'm like, I mean, for me personally, I'm like, literally sometimes I leave the gym almost in tears because it's probably music induced, but like I feel so good afterwards and I'm enjoying life. I'll get all dramatic and sit on my Subaru and like watch the sunset or something. And I'm like, I feel so good. There's something about doing something physical and pushing myself and being like, gosh, I didn't want to run 4 miles on the treadmill today, but I stayed the whole time. And that was not comfortable. I recognized it was not comfortable plenty of times. And so that's like a physical thing, new experiences. You know, I've been taking piano lessons, learning Russian. Dude, well, obviously, obviously to you, not to listeners, I'm getting into beekeeping, making our backyard this like farm oasis thing. I was sitting on the couch last night, and this is just my curious hobbyist mind, but I was looking into aquaponics with like fish.
What the heck?
And so, yeah. So it's just like I'm so intrigued with this world, and it like this world brings me into a state of wonder of everything. You look at people around you, and everybody has this niche where they get so stoked on something. So there has to be something beautiful in each of those things. So let me unlock something in my head, the comfort of just staying where I'm at and not doing anything new, and kind of push myself into this uncomfortable space of new experiences, of that feeling that we felt when we were a kid. Like I talked about on my honeymoon, I talked about at the alignment experience about my honeymoon when I tried surfing. I hadn't done anything like super new in a long time. Like, yes, I'd push myself with work, but I hadn't done anything new. And that surfing just brought me back to this feeling of like, oh, wow, like I really got to figure this out because I'm, you know, getting wrecked, getting pitted by this wave.
Pitted, bro.
And I got to figure this out because I don't want to keep feeling this discomfort. And I think that's part of it. You throw yourself into discomfort more and more. That was kind of a rabbit trail of going down all of that. But physical challenges, new experiences are ways that people can find fulfillment and happiness whenever you put yourself, typically those two entail discomfort. And so I guess one of my final questions for you, is there a area in your life right now outside of work that you're putting pressure on yourself, that you're making yourself uncomfortable with, or something that you just recently did, or a challenge or a goal that, you know, we haven't even really talked about that, but a challenge, goals, that is pushing yourself in discomfort, because a goal inherently says you're going for something where you're not at right now. And so there is an expanse that you have to traverse in order to get there, which is typically going to be a little uncomfortable. It's going to take time, work, energy, thought, money, whatever it might be. So is there an area in your life where you're kind of working on those different things right now?
Dude, 100%. I mean, challenges are so good, and it's something that I think we've bonded over because we just love like challenges. Challenges are like, they create meaning, you know. We need them to risk and feel alive, and challenges are also about aligning, you know, with your true self. So yeah, I actually haven't voiced this to you, so it's going to be fun to talk to you about, but I've really never taken my health seriously, like super, super serious. I've always been like a semi-healthy person that gets by, and I really, when I look at a mirror, you know, of myself, I'm like, whatever, like, you know, I'm not self-conscious. That's not like ever been a driver. But the whole idea of becoming a father soon is definitely becoming more and more of a talking point with me and Sarah. I don't have a kid, just for everyone listening right now, and Sarah's not pregnant. So, but the idea is kind of, we've been going back and forth, probably 2026 if I were to guess. And so what I started doing research about is the women go through such like a altering change in their body for all of 9 months of birthing a child, like growing and birthing a child. It's insane what their bodies can do, you know, and men don't really do anything. But what I heard is like, when you are, you know, creating a kid, your genes are being, you know, infused with hers to create, right? Like, sorry, I'm doing the whole beat.
Yeah, tell us how it works, man.
Right. No, exactly. So I want to be in the best shape of my life, right? When we're starting to have kids. And it was a practice, I think like hundreds of years ago, that the man would get in like the best shape of his life 9 months before the woman gets pregnant, essentially. And so coming up with like a really well thought out fitness challenge for the next 9 months. And for me to even say that is like so, I've never done like a big fitness challenge. And so I'm still kind of in like that brainstorming phase, but it's actually good to just say it out loud and talk to you about it. Because we're getting close to that 2026 mark, and I would love to be in the best shape of my life when we start having kids.
Yeah, man. And I feel like hearing you say that is something that
I know. I don't think people understand.
Yeah.
Because it's so cliche to say, I want to do a fitness challenge. No,
yes,
dude, I don't do fitness challenge.
Yeah. Well, that's not gonna, true. I haven't really, I mean, I've seen you put like, go to the gym, play basketball, things like that on your goals. But I just know whenever you say you're going to do something, you're going to do it. And especially since you came onto my freaking podcast.
Dude.
And
I have to.
You have to do it now. So everybody listening.
That's right.
You have to hold Boomer accountable. 9 months.
Check in on me.
Yeah. 9 months checking on him every day. But I think just to speak into the idea of challenges and goals and things like that, when I talk about audacity, you talk about, I have all this branding. I have this footage of me walking up to the edge of a cliff and base jumping. It only takes me half a second to have the willpower to jump off that cliff. And it just takes this, brief moment of audacity, of boldness, of something that maybe feels exterior to ourselves. In reality, it really is ourselves. But it takes this brief moment to feel that boldness. And so I think that's important to kind of note right now, because setting a challenge and setting a goal is movement that's going to hopefully make action happen down the road. And so it is this, while nothing truly is actually happening whenever you set a goal, other than like, you're speaking something to existence for yourself or to a close friend, it's getting that ball rolling. It's audacity to stop for a second, to think about where you're at, to choose to want to be somewhere else, which so many people don't do.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my encouragement to people listening today, is to think about where you're at. Where do you want to be? It's going to take discomfort to get there. That's kind of the topic at hand here: discomfort, pressure, whatever it might be. You have to self-impose pressure on yourself, because everything in this world is going to be screaming at you.
Yes.
To get, to sit in the AC, to eat the yummy meal, to, take it easy because you deserve it. Go take the bath, whatever it is. And all that's great. But realizing that is not the point of our life. Those creature comforts, the things that the feeling that comes with those actions isn't going to lead us to a life of fulfillment and a life that we actually want to live. And so putting these challenges into place is the hack, how do I say it? To use the word that I've used a few times in this podcast, the secret sauce that pushes you over that edge. It's the audacious movement that gets the action flowing to actually become the person that you want to be.
Dude, that's good, man. I love the topic of pressure. Actually, I was doing some research, and nature reflects our nature as humans, right? Wait, can I read a quote to you real quick?
Yeah.
This is in the book, what is it? The Creative Act. Yeah. The reason we are drawn to gazing at the ocean, there's a reason we are drawn to gazing at the ocean, it is said that the ocean provides a closer reflection of who we are rather than a mirror. And so I was looking all the different ways that pressure is implemented in nature, right? Obviously, the one is diamonds, carbon under pressure, where it's, wait, I actually did a bunch of research. What starts as ordinary carbon becomes a diamond only through immense heat and pressure deep within Earth's mantle, right? And then like volcanoes too. Like that, maybe there's a reason why you love Iceland is because volcanoes form an intense pressure within the Earth's crust, forcing magma to the surface through destruction, right? Volcanic eruptions create fertile lands, giving birth to rich ecosystem and lush landscapes. Like there's a reason we're like drawn to Iceland is because that island was created with intense pressure. There's a reason you're drawn to mountains, like tectonic plates colliding, boom, pressure, creating the most beautiful mountains we've ever seen, and so that is a hack. That is our natural state of going throughout the transformation of our lives, is putting pressure on ourselves and each other, like let's grow.
Let's grow. Yeah. 100% agree, man. Nature is screaming with examples. It's teeming with examples, I think is the word I was trying to
there's so many. There's so many.
I just want to ask you the last question of the podcast is, I'm always, me and you are having a conversation, but I'm thinking about the people that are listening to this and their own lives, whatever they're doing, driving somewhere or on a run or sitting there on the couch, staring at the ceiling or, in the backyard. What's your encouragement to them after everything that we've talked about today? Of discomfort and pressure. What would you leave them with?
I would say that, pressure and challenges, kind of topics that we've been talking about, it are the natural language for creativity and purpose, to be able to be alive and to expand and grow and to multiply. That's why it's super, super important that we keep pushing boundaries of actually what's possible for who we are and, us as humans. Let's break through those ceilings, whether it be spiritually or creatively, emotionally. It's a superpower and it's a hack. And I think my challenge is to make sure I'm choosing those right challenges. My challenge is to make sure I'm choosing the right challenge. Yeah. And ones that align with my truest self. And I hope you can do that as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I think just to feed off of that too, just a parting thought from me as well is I think what Boomer and I have been talking about more than anything is this self-awareness of what you need to do in your life. And so my encouragement to you guys too, as you start your week or whenever you're listening to this, is your mind is constantly saying something to you. You're constantly listening to your mind, and learn to pay attention to what it's saying and to what you're feeling. Just start with that. Pay attention to what that voice is saying. There's always some kind of internal dialogue of a feeling or a voice that humans are feeling. And this little voice that we're talking about that maybe isn't as loud, that's maybe behind the scenes, that pops up for half a second, then goes back down, is often a more true version of ourselves than the one that's constantly yelling at us. And my encouragement is to slowly listen to that voice and take action on that voice, even if it's for just a few seconds. And over time, you see the beauty that comes from that discomfort, that pressure that voice pushes you into. And then little by little, the script flips. And that voice actually has more of a say and is louder. And you become to associate yourself more with that voice than with the other voice that's screaming for comfort and for you to stay where you're at. And so Yeah, man. There's my final thought is something I looked up, and it's called the toughening theory. Um, Toughening theory is the idea that when you voluntarily expose yourself to stressors, especially mild to moderate ones, your mind and body adapt in a way that makes you feel more resilient, not less.
Hmm.
It's kind of like working out, stressing the muscles. And obviously everybody understands that parallel. But yeah, I think that's kind of like the overarching theme is like you're becoming tougher, you're growing, you're
Yeah.
getting out of your comfort zone. And so, man, I just thought you were the perfect person to come on and talk about all of this. I mean, you have gone against the grain ever since you didn't go to college. You did your own thing. You started your own business. You began to multiply that business, became known in that industry, but didn't settle for that and listened to the voice saying, this isn't the end of the story. There's something else going on in me. How did you notice that? Maybe I would venture to say maybe that was from some sense of pressure or discontentment inside of you. And you noticed that and you took action on that. And look at you now. And obviously, I'm not saying you're like in the promised land, like that your life's perfect. Like, I don't even know what's going on, but lawyers typically entail something not super fun. Like, but you've built a life that is beautiful, and you moved out to Oregon to find peace and to create a life that is conducive to the path that you want to take. And I just think that's really beautiful.
Dude, thank you, man. It's such an honor that you asked me to be on here, and I just appreciate you, and any time that I see you or one of my friends go from desire to ideation to execution to actually a living, breathing thing should be absolutely celebrated and honored. And dude, this is like so cool. I'm just so proud of you, man. 1 a.m. Club. You created
Club.
it. You were disciplined enough to listen to that voice as well, and here we are, man.
Here we are, dude. Thanks for saying that. It is fun to be 4 episodes in and kind of creating a flow and getting this thing going. So to everybody listening, thanks for listening to the 1 a.m. Club. Actually, I'm not going to say that because I want to have an outro too. So yeah, dude, thanks for taking the time to be on 4th episode. I'm sure we'll talk again soon.
Have me back on.
Yes, sir. Well, what an absolute honor it was having Boomer on to episode 4 of the 1 a.m. Club. Even though he's one of my best friends, any chance I get to talk to him about this sort of material always leaves me motivated, always leaves me excited to get back into life, get back into the arena and start doing. And to you, if you're still listening, thank you so much for taking your time to listen to this week of the podcast episode. If you're enjoying the 1 a.m. Club, if this is your first time, drop a comment, say hello. Feel free to message me on Instagram. Share this with a friend that it might be relevant to. Leave us a rating if that's something that you feel inclined to do. Obviously, no pressure. And just, man, I appreciate you being here. This is such an honor, such a pleasure to be able to meet weekly with myself, but also with whoever you are on the other side of this camera lens or listening in your car or wherever you're at. Thank you so much for being a part of this journey of mine. This next week and the week after that are actually going to be a combined duo of audacious moves that I'm taking. Again, I take one audacious move every week, but these next 2 weeks are going to go together. And so the overarching premise of what I'm going to be doing over the next 2 weeks is starting a brand new business. But I also want to make sure that whenever I'm doing these things, that it's something that is relatable to you and that there's not this asterisk on it of, oh, well, he had money or time or energy or whatever it was. I want it to be just obscenely obvious that, hey, you can go and do these things too. And so I'm going to be starting a business in the next 2 weeks. But the first week of that is going to be listing all the clutter, decluttering my house, listing it all on Facebook Marketplace, making money off of that, and then using that money to start a business here at home, whether it's in my garage or whatever kind of business I come up with and I'll be thinking about over the next week or so as I declutter and list things on Facebook Marketplace. What is that business going to be, and how am I going to be able to afford it by decluttering and selling things? There's something about the spring air. There's something about the warming temperatures that kind of makes me want to tinker and get into like a new hobby, something that I can do at home, that I can take a break from the computer and maybe go and do some other sort of business. So I'm excited to throw myself into that over the next 2 weeks. Guys, thanks so much again for listening to the 1 a.m. Club. Please introduce yourself to me on Instagram or some other way if you haven't already, and I will see you next week.